Hello class, I'm going to give you three examples about the workbook 2.3, which is about perfect square trinomials and binomials to the square. Okay, so let's go directly to the examples. So I think it's the second example. I'm not quite sure. It's this one. 9x squared plus 6x plus 1. So this is a trinomial, and this one appears in the workbook, and the instruction is to factorize such trinomial into a binomial to the square. And in here, there could be either a plus sign or a minus sign, according to which one appears right there. Okay, if this specific sign is a plus, then this will be a plus. If this sign is a minus, then the sign in the binomial will be a minus. And make sure first to arrange everything in a descending order of powers. First squared, then x to the 1, and then the constant term. So that's the first thing you have to do. Arrange the whole trinomial in descending order of powers. Okay, so let's do this. What is the technique in order to come up with the factorization of this trinomial, of this perfect square trinomial? Okay, so far, basically what you see here is that this is a trinomial, right? You don't know whether this is a perfect square trinomial, because, pay attention, not all trinomials are perfect square trinomials. The adjective perfect square trinomial is applied to only some trinomials, not all. So how can you make sure whether this is a perfect square trinomial so as to accept a factorization as a binomial to the square? You have to check two things. The first one, what is the first thing? You look at these two terms, at the first term and the last term, okay? And what you gotta make sure is that both of them can be written as the square of something, okay? The square of something. In the case of 1, that's very simple. Why? Because 1 is the square of itself, right? 1 to the square is equal to 1. So this term checks. Now, what about 9x squared? Can this be written as the square of something? Yes, it's going to be the square of 3x, because 3x to the square is 9x squared. And therefore, my first step is confirmed. That is the first thing you have to make sure. What is the second step? The second step is the following. You're going to look at the term in the middle, which in this case is 6x, and you have to make sure that such term is the double of this times this. Okay, so how much is this times this? That's going to be 3x, right? 3x times 1, that's 3x. Multiply that by 2, so 3x times 2 is going to be obviously 6x. So my second requirement is satisfied, you see? And basically, once you confirm the first step and the second step, now you can be sure that this trinomial is in fact a perfect square trinomial. Sometimes I abbreviate in this way. And now we can go to the writing of this as a binomial to the square. And remember, in here, there is going to be either a plus or a minus, depending on whether this is plus or minus. Okay, so what are going to be the terms that make up my binomial? They're going to be, in fact, these ones, the ones that you wrote in here, 3x and 1. So let's write them down. 3x and 1. And what sign am I going to choose, plus or minus? Look at this sign in the trinomial. If it's plus, you're going to choose plus. So there it is. This trinomial is a perfect square trinomial, and its factorization is equal to 3x plus 1 to the square, which is equal, as you know, as 3x plus 1 times 3x plus 1. Okay, and that's it. That's the purpose of this workbook, to go from the non-factorized form to the factorized form. I'm gonna give you just another example, guys. I think two of them are enough. Okay, let's look at this one. There's another one. I cannot remember the number, so forgive me about that. There's another trinomial in your workbook that goes like this: 16x squared minus 16x plus 4. So all that I know so far is that this is a trinomial, okay, because it consists of three terms. I don't know yet whether this is a perfect square trinomial. I have to check that. And the checking proceeds in two steps. First step, look at this term, look at this term, and try to see whether they can be written as the square of something, okay? 16x squared. Can that be written as the square of something? Yes, it's going to be the square of 4x. And 4 will be the square of 2. So the first step is fulfilled. Now the second step. Look at your term in the middle, 16x, and try to make sure whether this is twice the product of this times this. How much is this times this? That's going to be 8x. And twice that is going to be 16x. So in fact, it checks. So once I have covered 1 and 2, I'm perfectly sure that this is in fact a perfect square trinomial, and I can proceed to its factorization as a binomial to the square. What terms is my binomial consist of? These two, 4x and 2. So let's write them down. And what sign am I going to choose, plus or minus? Look at this sign in the trinomial, and that's going to be the sign of your binomial to the square. So this is a perfect square trinomial, and this is its factorization as a binomial to the square. So you see, it's rather simple, guys. I think that is enough. I don't want to extend this lesson too much. And now let's work on the exercises from the workbook 2.3. Thank you.